Hey everybody, welcome to episode 19 of Everything You Love. I'm Rob Arnold. Thanks so much for tuning in as I broadcast here for the first time from my brand new room. Appreciate your patience as I get things going because there's still a lot of work to be done. Just recently, this past week, I was able to spend a lot of time at the old studio getting packed up, organized, throwing stuff away, dismantling stuff, figuring out everything I was going to bring over here to the new room and space to get things set up. So that's been exciting, and I still got some things to do over there, but I was able to bring my desk over, my monitors, mixing board, some other components, and just kind of get set up here in a makeshift rig while I work on the rest of the stuff so that I can continue to be productive, but it feels good to be in here. Such a long journey. Thanks to everybody who's tuned in and watched the process of my studio build diary. If you haven't checked that out, I recommend you check out parts 1 through 4 thus far so you can hear the story behind the whole project, what's been going on, and see the build in a time lapse and just hear me talk about it all. That brings us to this point right here, like I said, where this is the first broadcast. So as I mentioned, a ton of work to do. I was able to bring over these baffles over here, which some of you may remember from the live room of the old Rob Arnold World Studio. I have 4 of these black ones that I need to figure out how to put up. More on that in a sec. And I have 4 red ones, which I still haven't brought over yet. And at first I thought I was going to do new acoustic treatment in the room. And what that is just kind of absorption of sound, so sounds aren't bouncing off the walls all over the place. It might even be weird in here right now. I'm not sure. We won't find out till I listen to this after the recording. But the absorbers and bass traps and baffling and things like that just make the room sound better. So there's less echo and less bouncing around of frequencies, less buildup of unwanted frequencies, things like that. Just smooth it out. So that takes some time to figure out, to learn your room, to learn how your monitors are going to react in the room, where to position things properly. So that's going to take a little time, but I'm excited. I'm excited to get going. Cool thing about these absorbers here, or baffles, this black thing in the corner here. There's one in each corner. I know you can probably only see maybe a couple right now, but anyways, there's kind of a cool history about them. These were up, like I said, at the old Rob Arnold World, and when I was building that studio, Chuck, my friend and landlord there at the building where the studio was. When it got time to treat the rooms, he mentioned that he had some old baffling from the Cleveland Playhouse Square theater district and I don't remember the numbers exactly, the time frame exactly, or what the story was, but it was something like this. The Playhouse Square theater district in downtown Cleveland was built in the 1920s, maybe the 30s, somewhere in there, and there was lots of killer stuff going on there, and it was thriving, but then I don't know, something happened, fire, I think a combination of fire and vandalism, kind of like in the riots of maybe the 50s and 60s, kind of destroyed the theater district, and they were beautiful. There was a ton of cool architecture put into them. But anyways, they were rebuilt again in the 70s or 80s, but from that time frame before, some people were able to salvage some things from the theater. I'm sure there was lots of cool woodworking and sculptures and paintings and all sorts of things. Anyways, Chuck had come across 2 big 4x8 absorption panels that my buddy George and I, who built the old Rob Arnold World, cut down and made these 8 baffles out of, the 4 black ones and the 4 reds. And so I was excited to put those up because just imagine the history of the decades of operas and theaters and plays and concerts and things that these things have heard and what they've absorbed, all the way to the Elite's Total Destruction record and all the things I did at my old studio there. So when I thought about treating this room specifically with new stuff, I second-guessed myself and said, I got to bring these things over here and make them work in this room just because of the history of them and just the music that is within these things, and hopefully they'll grant me good luck. That being said, I need to figure out a way to hang them up. I had them flat in the old space, but here I want to put them in the corners, these black ones. I'm going to do the red ones on the front wall here and the back wall just flat, but these corner ones. So anyways, I've devised some things in my mind. A lot of times how I do things, I just kind of design, build, figure it out as I go. So I've got a kind of rough plan in my mind, but to make that happen, to make my plan happen, we're going to need to get some additional hardware. So I figured, why not have some fun in this episode and head over to Home Depot. Not really some fun, we're just going to be driving, but I figure we'll answer some questions on the way there and on the way back, and I'll pick up my hardware, head back, and see what happens from there. Whether I include me hanging them in this video, that's yet to remains to be seen. I'm not sure yet how everything is going to work out, but anyways, let's head to Home Depot, answer some of your guys' questions, and see what happens. Sound good? Let's do it. All right, so here we go here on our way to the Home Depot on a surprisingly gorgeous day in November in the suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio here. Right before we get into the questions, I wanted to mention anybody that didn't know, I got some brand new t-shirt designs available from Rob Arnold World. T-shirts, long sleeves, hoodies, just in time for the cold weather here. We got the heavy metal over everything design, something I've been thinking about for a long time that I'm glad has finally come to fruition. When metal and music just means a ton to you, this is the way to let people know, the statement to make. And then we got the RA600 shirts too, the bring them back, you know, just our little way, become a part of the movement here, you know, to let ESP know we love those guitars, want them to come back into production. Maybe you're an owner yourself, I don't know. But anyways, check out the link in the description below. And right now, during the whole month of November, you can save 10% by using code YouTube10. So check that out. Again, link in the description, YouTube10 for 10% off your order of the brand new Rob Arnold World shirts. All right, so let's get into it here with the first question from Mr. Barry Nielsen here, who says, hey, Rob, why was Matt not involved in the Age of Hell record? I always thought it was strange that he was still part of the band, but you did the album just yourself, Mark, and Ben. I feel as though the album is a tad underrated too. There are some great songs on it, my personal favorites being Beyond the Grave, Losing My Mind, and Trigger Finger. Well, first of all, Barry, glad you dig that one. I agree that it's a bit underrated too, but perhaps we just don't give it the love, you know, that we give the other albums. As this person's gonna pull out in front of me here. You know, just because it was just such a weird time in the band, especially for myself. I mean, it had to have been a weird-ass time for Mark, too, you know? Ben was just along for the ride, doing his job. We asked him to play drums on the record, but, you know, it's just kind of like a half-hearted record because it was half the band. But to answer your question about Matt there, maybe we should ask Matt to get all the details, but my recollection is that Matt had already moved to Florida by this point. He kind of relocated there with his family. You know, he had just had a new son at the time, or right around there somewhere. Anyways, he relocated to Florida, and Chimaira, and I think a lot of music and a lot of business in general is kind of like this train's, you know, hitting the tracks and moving forward, and you're either jumping on board or you're not. And I think that was the mindset at the time that Mark and I knew that we had to just make this record. You know, there were a lot of changes happening within the band, and we kind of just had to do what we had to do. And Matt was either going to be along for that or he wasn't. And, you know, no discredit or no disrespect to him whatsoever, but I just think he wasn't around for it. We had to keep going. Now, we certainly missed his riffs and stuff. I love Matt's riffs. I know Mark does too. We always have, always will. You know, we've been a fan of his music forever. He's certainly contributed a ton of rad riffs and songs to the Chimaira catalog, so we would have loved to have him there. But I just think it was just a situation where he wasn't really around, and nobody kind of pulled any strings on his end or ours to kind of just get him up there to be involved. I'm sure we talked about it. I kind of don't remember now. Again, it was just a strange period of time. But yeah, I do like that record. I just kind of don't give it the love that I give the other records, because, you know, I think only half of me was there, and it's Mark, who's very good, as I've mentioned, at naming albums and songs and all that. Named the album perfectly, The Age of Hell. Whether he was foreshadowing or he knew what was coming in the storm ahead, he certainly named that album aptly. So, anyways, I think that's the answer to that one. Next up, we got another one from Hammer Punch. Hey Rob, I have a question. Would be cool to hear more about every Chimaira album cover art and how that came about. Well, I got to tell you that there are better guys in the band to ask that question to, because I was never really involved in the art department at all. Of course I cared, and they, Mark and Chris handled all that. And of course they'd show me the stuff, and, if I hated something or whatever, I'd speak up, but most of the time I dug it. And so those would be the guys to ask, but I'll go ahead and give my best recollection of the album covers here. So Pass Out, I believe Chris hired a dude to create that artwork, and I could be wrong about this or a lot of this stuff, but I think that we just kind of looked at it and we're like, whoa, that looks cool. It's kind of like futuristic looking, we all like futuristic looking stuff, but we were all like, what is it? And nobody knew what it was, but we were just kind of like, cool, it looks cool, let's just roll with it. And I honestly think that's the story behind it, that we just thought it looked cool and went with it for the Pass Out of Existence album cover. Skipping Present Darkness, sorry, our EP before that, that's actually Arnold's on the cover. It's just some hidden trivia there for the Chimaira world there. That's actually Arnold's, that's like kind of distorted or photoshopped in some weird way for that album cover. Why? I don't know. Again, probably just we thought it looked cool and we went with it. So Pass Out, again, same thing there. Possibility of Reason. Now that, I know Mark had a vision for that. I know he's a big fan of the movie director Stanley Kubrick and likes a lot of the artwork and movie covers for that kind of stuff. I don't know a lot about it, but I could picture like Full Metal Jacket, that movie cover. I'll put a picture of it here somewhere. You can see it's just like a helmet, with a white stark background. And Mark really liked that look, and I knew he wanted to go in that direction for a Possibility of Reason. So he talked to the dudes responsible for making the art, Garrett Zunt, Todd Bell, part of the Tectonic Rocket Society, great friends of ours for a long time. And Garrett's an incredible artist, does some cool stuff. And he just took Mark's idea. I think Mark may have said, I wanted the Chaos logo in blood there. So he did it, that he really put some fake blood down on like some white canvas and kind of drew that thing out like that the Chaos logo, and then it was photographed, and that became the album cover that's become pretty iconic. So pretty cool there. Same type of thing for the self-titled then. I believe Mark wanted something else to represent the Chimaira, because it was self-titled. Chimaira being the beast, the goat, the lion, and the snake there. Garrett and those guys, actually made it. They made that album cover, and if you open up the booklet inside, there's the actual Chimaira monster, and that's made out of like clay and stuff, and that whole scene of that destroyed city was actually created. And a while ago, it might be a couple years now, I posted on Instagram a bunch of pictures from that like set design and the shoot, the creation of that Chimaira model there. So I'll link that in the description below as well, so you guys can go back and check out that Instagram post and see some of those photos from that. Moving on to Resurrection. Again, I think that maybe that was just another thing where Chris hired a guy. I'm sure, I'm sure Chris or Mark give the guys direction. This is a resurrection, a new reformation of the band. Arnold had just come back. And there's this metamorphosis happening from the band during the self-titled time into now the Resurrection era. And so I think the artist just came up with that kind of like man turning into a fly or vice versa type design there, and it was just something that we dug and went with. I'm sure they got multiple different designs to choose from, and that's what they went with. So that's my recollection of the Resurrection cover. Infection, I gotta say, is the same thing. We wanted some sort of like graffitied out type, infected looking kind of like imagery. I don't know, that's my best description of this one there. I don't know, it looks like, I'm not looking at it at this moment, I have it in my mind, but it looked like some like, what you'd see in like some back alley, like graffiti thing or whatever, with like a cool, like biohazard-ish looking Chaos logo there. So again, probably something that someone who was hired to create, given some direction, and that's what we decided to go with. And then moving on to The Age of Hell, I want to say that an artist named Pat, who was from a local band here called Ohio Sky at the time, who ended up working with Mark on a lot of the art stuff after Chris left the band. I think specifically for the Crown of Phantom stuff. I know Pat had a lot to do with that, but I believe Pat got involved in the Age of Hell stuff and probably just came up with that. I could be wrong, but I'm sure Mark gave him some direction. Hey, make something that looks like this. This is kind of what I'm into right now, what I'm feeling. So I believe Pat came up with that. So all this, again, wasn't very good descriptions, but I had a different idea. when I chose this question to answer here, and that is, as I'm sure a lot of you know, but for those who don't, Mark Hunter, singer Chimaira, has been streaming live twice a day, in the morning and in the evening, Monday through Friday, for at least 3 or 4 weeks now, over on Twitch. And you can find him, just go to Twitch, and it's Chimaira_Mark. And he tells stories, does cool stuff. Lately he's been doing sets where he just sings songs. He's doing tons of Chimaira songs. I've seen him do Fear Factory, Cannibal, Obituary, Eazy-E, all sorts of stuff. So he's just having fun over there. I know a lot of people are enjoying that. But so I had an idea. I'm going to forward this video along to him, or send him a message with this exact same question from Hammer Punch, and see if he'll answer it on his Twitch show. So I'm sure he'd love to. And his memory and his sense of detail, he'll be able to describe every single album cover in the way that I know you were hoping to hear the description. And I'm interested now as well myself. So I'm gonna, not challenge Mark, but we'll ask Mark if he would like to answer this question too and go through the album titles. And I'm sure he will, because it'll be fun for him and his viewers, and we'll certainly all tune into that. And once that happens, I'll link that in the description below. So it may take some time, or maybe he might refuse, who knows, but I doubt it. Anyways, if a video of him doing that exists, it'll be linked below, and if not, it hasn't happened yet. So there's that. Next up, we got one from Mr. Trevor Phillips. Trevor asks, "Hey Rob, do you think if Chimaira ever happened to record another album, you'd ever consider self-producing it?" I would definitely consider self-producing it, because that's kind of what I've built myself towards, building this recording studio after all these years, and just trying to learn all I could, and trying to get good at recording, and just the experience I've obtained now and stuff like that. I'm confident that I could make it happen. But to further answer your question here, I'm always at this kind of like emotional crossroads for something important regarding this matter. Now, a lot of it would come down to, first, just the budget for the record. So it takes a lot of time, energy, and money to make a record, and that's why record labels come into play for bands. And the record label basically fronts the money for the band to make the recording, to go into a nice studio, to do everything that they need to do, and then the record company hopes to make their money back through album sales. So let's say Chimaira were to make a record tomorrow. We don't have a record deal right now, and would we go shopping for one? I don't know. I think we'd probably just do it independently because we can. So, because we have the tools to make it happen, especially in this day and age where it's a hustle and everybody's just doing cool stuff with the tools and the environment that they're in. That's the way we would go. We really wouldn't have a choice. It's not like we could call up Ben Schigel and say, "Hey, make this record for free for us." So, because I've got a place to do it, the know-how now, I'm confident that I could make that happen. But the crossroads that I come to is that, do I want to take on that additional pressure and stress and workload where every Chimaira record before that, I've just been a guitar player and a songwriter and been able to oversee the process of everything and just be involved in that fashion? Would taking a gigantic turn in the Chimaira songwriting and album creation format by having me produce the record create different results, whether they be positive or negative? Probably more so negative, because it's just a complete flip of the script. Like, as I said before, where I could just focus on making the record from the standpoint of musician, now I'd take that same role on, plus the enormous undertaking of making the record. People don't understand the amount of time and effort that's put into making records, and just the mental and physical workload that it takes. Now, yeah, you're not digging ditches or, picking coal out of a mine and stuff like that. You're sitting in front of a computer, but it's still a ton of work, a lot to manage. Personalities to files. Guys like Mark Lewis, Joey Sturgis, those guys that for years, either currently or in the past, were just making record after record after record after record. Those guys' minds must be mush, because it's just a lot to do. So anyways, I'm not afraid of that, and I would take that on if need be. But just like I said, to answer your question, sometimes I consider that. What would be the outcome? Would that affect the Chimaira formula in a negative way? Because my focus would be split so dramatically between not only crafting the songs and recording guitar stuff as I normally do, but also being the project manager of the production itself and just doing all that work as the engineer. So interesting, I believe. Interesting question, good question. And I don't know, one that maybe we'll find out the answer to as a reality one day, or maybe we won't. I don't know. Decisions. Okay, another one here. Hey, Rob, considering how you mentioned that you dissect every little part and are very thorough and particular about the songwriting process, how does it work when Mark and Spacuzza write their parts after the four of you have written the main song structure? Curious to know how much say you have on whether a sample or vocal pattern or even lyrics will stay in the song, or how it might change the feel or outcome. Lyrics especially can make or break a song. Thanks for all the great videos. Well, dude, thanks for watching the videos. I appreciate it. Wouldn't be able to do it without you guys checking them out. So how much say do I have in all that stuff? I would say a lot. You know, the guys respect my opinion on all that stuff, but at the same time, I also would try to just let it happen. You know, let those guys do their thing. A lot of the time after the songs are written and it's time to hit the studio, or, you know, because I didn't really hear a lot of Chris's stuff until we hit the studio. And a lot of time I heard only a very small percentage of Mark's stuff before we hit the studio. But when we'd get there, I'd be caught in this conundrum where I'd almost be exhausted from the just writing sessions and then recording sessions and just everything leading up to Mark and Chris's performance, to the point where it'd feel nice to take my foot off the gas a little bit and just let everything happen that was going to happen with those guys, you know, and I'd chime in here and there. For the most part, I just liked what those guys were doing. Of course, if there was something going on that I didn't really like or something, I'd speak up, or if I had a better idea or a suggestion or whatever, I would definitely say it. But I especially more so later on, I'd try to just let whatever happen. And definitely as time's gone on, I've learned that that's the best thing to do, because while you're creating the songs, especially like as a guitar player or whatever, you do have a mental vision in your mind of how you think the vocals are going to go, where the verses are going to be, where the choruses are going to be, maybe even patterns in mind and stuff like that. I know I do. And so sometimes when I'd hear the stuff, it'd be completely different, and I'd be like, whoa, and I'd have to make a decision then. Do I say something and say, this is totally a different direction than I was thinking, and try to steer the other guy in the direction I was going, or let it happen? And a great example of that would be Chris Barnes with the 6 Feet Under Undead record that we worked on together, which I've talked about this in the past, but I'd send Chris songs, and in my mind, I had this like minute-long intro, and then I thought it was apparent where the verse would start, and I expected him to come in. He'd send the song back to me, and he'd just like come in right away, like on the intro, you know, like right when the song started, and I'd be like, whoa, he's coming in right there? But after listening for a few times, as I've said, I'd be like, dude, this is genius. Just because I didn't envision it that way doesn't mean that it isn't awesome. And I'd realize that that was the best thing, and part of what makes these guys like Chris Barnes and Mark Hunter fantastic singers, because they have these fantastic ideas and they see the song in a different way. And that's also what makes collaboration with other musicians so awesome too, because you get that different vantage point a lot of the time, especially with drumming. When guys are programming drums and stuff like that, you're just programming them and hey, it sounds cool or whatever, but when you get a real drummer on there and hear their perspective and how a drummer would play the parts, all of a sudden it takes on a new life, and it's generally far more creative, generally more catchy, and generally just better for the song and the songwriting than something that just comes from one guy's mind. So again, you know, I could have as much say as I wanted in that stuff, but I try to let those guys do their thing, and they always impress me because they're great musicians and did a great job, and things turned out the way they turned out because of all that, because of the room we would give each other, while at the same time, you know, always keeping an eye on one another, checks and balances. One more here from my man, Kevlar Scar. Hey Rob, whatever happened to the radio-friendly song stays the same from the Dehumanizing Process DVD that was a big topic of debate within the band. that was a great inside look to how songs are discussed within the band. Can you give further thoughts on that song? Would you change your mind now, or would you stick to your guns like you did in the DVD? Were there other outside influences on the band pushing you to release that? Okay, so Stays the Same. A lot of you guys know, ended up being I don't even know if it was a B-side to The Impossibility of Reason. I don't even think it was released. I know it's available in some way on the Dehumanizing Process DVD as maybe the menu music, or I don't know, something like that. You can find it on there. And I'm sure it's on YouTube now as well. But around that time especially, and maybe I'm sure even today, there's a lot of pressure on bands to have some radio-friendly songs that can attract people, especially for heavier bands. If you want something that you can get into mainstream, because mainstream radio is the way to have lots of people hear your bands. Five Finger Death Punch is all over radio, and a lot of people know about Five Finger Death Punch. So the label would try to press you to perhaps, get something that you could put on the radio, even if it would just draw their attention to the rest of your album, which could be super heavy or whatever. But that is not the message that I wanted to portray. The direction that Chimaira was going in on The Impossibility of Reason was songs like The Impossibility of Reason, Cleansation, Overlooked, Power Trip, Pure Hatred. That was the direction we were going. And a song like Stays the Same, which was geared specifically towards attracting fans on the radio and being light enough to being played on radio, because radio wouldn't play something that was just super heavy. It had to be just the right taste, so that the radio, we would find it radio friendly, as they put it. So I didn't want to convey that message that you found us because of the song Stays the Same, but yet we have pure hatred on our album. I just didn't like that spectrum, and like that. I wanted the respect of just having a totally heavy record. Now, that was just my opinion, and it was my opinion at the time. Do I stand by that opinion? Absolutely. Would I change my mind? No, I wouldn't. I'm glad that decision was made that way. Was it at the expense of the other guys and maybe perhaps success we missed out on? Maybe. But I don't regret that. Because I think of it like this too. Picture a band like Deicide or Morbid Angel or Sepultura, Suffocation, just having some one radio song or something with clean singing or whatever. Now, sure, a lot of people would like that, and a lot of people would sing along, and a lot of people don't care. A lot of people would be like, oh, this song's great and everything, even, but it's just not the way I wanted to go with it. I was fine with being just in the underground forever. I was fine with having that respect in the underground of just being heavy and stuff. I didn't need to have this radio-friendly song out there or whatever that I thought kind of discredited the rest of the album. Now, again, I apologize to the other guys, because I know Jim, he was pulling for it. He wanted that tune out there because he doesn't care about what I'm talking about here, about, having a song, if it's an album, if it's all heavy, and then having a couple standout radio tracks. He doesn't care one bit about that. And that's totally fine. It was just specifically me, and so I fought about it, and it didn't end up making the record. And is it a good tune? Yeah, probably. I haven't listened to it in a long time. I'm sure it's a good tune. And I probably made more of a stink about it than I should have. But again, it's just how I feel, There aren't any radio-friendly songs on Once Upon the Cross. So anyways, that's going to do it here. Should I wrap it up here, or should I wrap it up back at home here? I don't know. I guess I'll wrap it up back at home. Cheers. All right. We're back. Mission accomplished. I think I got the hardware I needed. We'll see. There was a lot of choices. It was actually overwhelming. What I had in mind that I wanted to get, I really wasn't able to get, so I got something else, but we're going to make it work one way or another. Appreciate everybody that's made it this far. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks so much to everybody who's been watching all the Everything You Loves, all the little series I got going on, and just supporting the channel. Appreciate everyone so much. Thank you, guys. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do, and please hit that notification button as well so that you know when I release new videos. Lots of guys were like, oh, there was a construction build thing? Oh, there was another Everything You Love? Yep, if you had hit that notification bell, like I do for the channels I like, just lets me know. So anyways, just a little tip. No pressure, though. Anyways, pick up one of those new Rob Arnold World shirts if you haven't already. Remember, you can save 10% by entering YouTube 10, link in the description below. I still got some DVDs left, shipping those out worldwide, autographed. So if you want one of my guitar instructional DVDs, check out robarnoldworld.com/store. Also, a link in the description below. Check out my Patreon campaign where guys are helping me do everything I'm doing that I owe so much to. Help me build this, help me keep going with all that. So thank you to everybody. Cheers, guys. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.